Unbreakable is an M. Night Shyamalan film from the year 2000 and was the follow-up to his critically acclaimed film The Sixth Sense. In this film, it follows a security guard by the name of David Dunn, who survives a train crash and is the only survivor. But the interesting thing is that he walks away with no bruises, no scratches, not even a paper cut. And after the incident, with the help of a disabled comic book store owner named Elijah Price, he begins to wonder if maybe he possesses some sort of superhuman abilities. I decided to watch this film because Split was my first experience with the director's material. I'm not including Last Airbender in this. And both Unbreakable and Split are, well, similar. Honestly, go see Split, it's worth it. Although, I would say if you do want to see that, try to see Unbreakable first. David Dunn is portrayed by Bruce Willis, and after careful thinking and consideration on my part, I've come to the conclusion that despite my love for his performance in the first Die Hard film, as well as in Looper, this was my favorite Bruce Willis performance. He gives a very subdued performance. He doesn't speak much, but through his facial features, you're able to experience just everything that he himself is feeling. Samuel L. Jackson portrays Elijah Price, the comic book store owner. What's interesting about the character is that he has a disease where his bones are just naturally weak. Hell, there's a scene in the movie where it shows a flashback, and it's him as a baby. He actually comes out with his bones broken just coming out of the womb. And the disease is real. It's actually called osteogenesis imperfecta. And because it's a real disease, you immediately start feeling bad for him. But the fact that he is so stubborn in his belief that superhumans can exist, and that he's so mentally strong, despite everything, just all the shit that he had to go through while living with the disease, I found myself really gaining a huge respect for Price. And I mean, Samuel L. Jackson's great, what can I tell you? The cast is pretty small, but we do get a really good child performance from Spencer Treat Clark, who plays David's son, and an actress who I actually had a hard time recognizing in this film, who portrayed David's wife Audrey, and it was Robin Wright. And if you don't know who that is, maybe what I'm about to show you will actually give you a bit of a hint. This is a great story, and the fact that an original superhero film came out just before the explosion of superhero films with franchises like the X-Men, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, it's just amazing. If the film came out in this year, 2017, it would be revered as a great comic book movie by a vast audience. Well, I'm gonna put quotations over comic book movie, because though there are subtle references to many different comic lines, this is a very original story, and not from an actual comic book. There are two things that I absolutely loved about Unbreakable. Now, the first thing is just, it's basically a what-if situation. What if somebody like Superman was here on Earth, but he didn't know that he was Superman? And that's a pretty unique idea for a movie, and we see him wonder just who he is, asking himself questions like, when was the last time I was sick? Even in a minor fashion. And have I ever actually gotten injured? How strong am I really? And there's even this really funny scene in the movie where he's lifting weights and his son is secretly putting more weight on, and just as it gets heavier and more convoluted, it gets really funny. But yeah, this is a hero's journey, just done a bit differently. And the second thing that this movie did, which impressed me the most, was in its theming, particularly about the idea of destiny. Price believes that life is predetermined and that everybody has their role. He also believes that it is Dunn's role as a superhero to save people. Now, I'm not familiar with most of Shyamalan's work, although a lot of his fans and people who've seen most of his movies have told me that that's a recurring theme throughout a lot of his films, which is, like I said, destiny. Just that everything happens for a reason, and I even saw that in Split. But Unbreakable took a much different, much darker turn to it, and made me a bit uncomfortable. Not in a bad way, not in a, I don't want to keep watching this, or I don't want to watch it ever again. It's just one of those things that made me wonder in an existential way. Like, it's suggested during the film that the idea of preordained, or everybody having a preordained purpose is not necessarily a good thing. That there's no control over your destiny, and in the end, no free will. And it's all because you're just a puppet, or some kind of chess piece in the grand plan. Unbreakable suggests that you can never change who you are, that you can never redeem any faults. If you're meant to be a hero, that's where you're gonna be. If you're meant to be a villain, that's where you're gonna be. If you're just meant to be nobody, that's who you are. As uncomfortable as that is, I really respect the second thing, like I said, the whole destiny theme, because I've never seen a film tackle the idea of destiny in a way that wasn't comforting. Cinematography is really great. I felt that Shyamalan was really using the camera work to pay tribute to comic books. It's not just a bunch of close-up shots that switch from angle to angle, focusing on one character here, and then one here, and then switching back each time they talk. It's just long takes where sometimes the shot would just zoom in and out, kind of like a box, but it would stay in the same area for the most part, making it as though the actors are actually acting in a space, and you get a feel for the world, and honestly, that's how I always feel whenever I read comics. James Newton Howard composed the musical score for this film, and oh my god, it kind of reminded me in some ways of how I felt whenever I would hear the Hans Zimmer scores for the Dark Knight trilogy. It's amazing. It's inspirational and yet haunting. There's actually one scene where Dunn actually has to overcome a weakness of his, and it shows him standing in the rain triumphantly. The instrumentals that just go on in the scene are... and just... I don't know how else to describe it, but it was one of the most inspirational scenes that I have ever seen. I can actually feel goosebumps just talking about it. For some reason, this film only has a 68% on Rotten Tomatoes, and actually, here's what the synopsis says. Or not the synopsis, but like the generalization. With a weaker ending, Unbreakable is not as good as The Sixth Sense. However, it is a quietly suspenseful film that intrigues and engages, taking the audience through unpredictable twists and turns along the way. What the hell? You can't just compare a superhero movie to a horror thriller? Now, I'm just guessing that that's how Sixth Sense is. I still haven't seen it. Although, like most people, I've been spoiled for the big twist in there. But even... you just... don't compare these things. And you know what? I thought that the one in Unbreakable was really good. I wasn't expecting it at all. In the end, this is a great film, and I actually believe it's one of the most underrated films of all time. Not one of the most underrated M. Night Shyamalan films, just films of all time. It's got great performances, a refreshing original story for the superhero genre of film, symbolic cinematography, and just a great standalone superhero score. You know what? I'm just gonna give this film a 5. I enjoyed it that much. I had no problems with this movie. As always, thank you so much for watching and just listening to me ramble. Please subscribe if you haven't already for more reviews and content. There's always more to come. Well, yeah, that'll do it for me today. Farewell until the next video. Bye.